This is Nate McMurray. You are listening to the Sound of Niagara podcast, and I am broadcasting from a nation in mourning, a nation in jeopardy. 5 mass shootings, 2 by Marines in one day, former Marines. It's a troubling time. We have the president calling for the designation of Antifa, which we all know is not really a group. It's a phrase that a lot of people rally under. I don't know how you're going to designate it as an organization. I think it's a way to designate any speech that's opposed to the president as illegal. He's designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. But meanwhile, we have former soldiers, vets, using violence to settle the score. Or I don't know, the one guy says his life was ruined by LGBTQ plus issues. I don't know what that means. The other guy, apparently, it seems like it's a retaliation for Charlie Kirk. And that's what I want to focus on today because it's personal for me. And I'll explain why. And those who listen to this podcast regularly understand why. But let's just play a clip to review what we're talking about.
Its own president calls it an epidemic of violence. This time 4 dead in a mass killing and 8 others injured after a gunman drove a vehicle into this church in Michigan. He opened fire before setting it alight with gasoline. Hundreds of people were inside at the time, worshipping at the Mormon Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Seen here, the pickup truck used, complete with the stars and stripes, and a place of worship, now a wreckage.
Our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims of this incident that could have been completely avoided. And it's very tragic, and that's not what our...
How would it have been avoided, sir? It would be avoided by maybe forging a country that doesn't treat everyone else like an enemy, that doesn't label its political opponents as vermin, that doesn't celebrate gun violence, that doesn't send young men into unnecessary wars to become angry and broken.
I'd like to acknowledge the heroism of not only the first responders, but the people who were inside that church at the time. They were shielding the children who were also present within the church, moving them to safety. Just hundreds of people just practicing their faith. Just extreme courage, brave, and that's the type of community that we are.
The gunman has been identified as Thomas Jacob Sanford, a former US Marine from a nearby town and believed to be a veteran of the Iraq War. He was killed in the shootout with police who were on the scene within less than a minute. They say suspected explosives were also found. Authorities are investigating the incident but say the motive remains unclear.
I think it's pretty clear. I mean, we don't want to jump to conclusions here, but he is a right-wing extremist, right? And Charlie Kirk was killed or allegedly killed by a young man who claims to be Mormon. I've said before, I don't know how this guy's Mormon. I saw the clips from his mother's Facebook page. I grew up Mormon, and I fully understand that Mormonism in Utah as practice is a lot different. They have the so-called Jack Mormon culture where people really don't go to church. But the church I grew up in, we would not have done some of the things his mother was posting on her Facebook page. And I don't mean those things are wrong. It's just not culturally Mormon. Nonetheless, the guy was killed in Utah, and this uneducated idiot who blew up this church clearly, or I think is the first and most likely motive, is that he's trying to punish Mormons for the death of his savior, Charlie Kirk. And we saw that incredible display for Kirk a week ago, was it? Now I'm going to say, when Kirk died, I was full of sadness. I was no fan of Charlie Kirk, but it was terribly sad. I was emotional for days after. I thought that it was a horrible thing that occurred, and not because his life matters more than the others that were taken by gun violence in this country, but it is tragic to see a young man that we've all come to know, or most of us have come to know, whether we like it or not, killed in such a horrible fashion. It was terrible. But the way they used his life and the way they've tried to rebrand him, literally taking the opposite positions that he had during life. Suddenly he's an advocate or he's a colleague and fellow traveler with Martin Luther King. When he called Martin Luther King terrible names when he was alive, it's like if you wanted somebody who supported Martin Luther King and supported freedom and kindness and decency, certainly that wasn't Charlie Kirk. So why are you trying to put those words into his mouth now after he's gone? I talked about how the Charlie Kirk show in our last episode had a bunch of guys in, including the Pizzagate guy, on there, all saying that Charlie Kirk's words are being taken out of context, and then playing clips where they confirm they're not being taken out of context, followed up by them saying Charlie Kirk was justified in saying these terrible things. So it's very strange, and the whole performance was strange. I first thought that his widow's performance made sense because she was from an evangelical background. And some of you may remember when we grew up, we were a little younger, there was these documentaries that come out, like, I think one was called Jesus Camp. And we'd watch these documentaries and we'd be like, wow, that's a freaky culture. This evangelical culture is unlike anything I grew up with. Well, now it's kind of mainstreamed. But Charlie Kirk's widow isn't even evangelical. Apparently she's Catholic. So I don't know where a lot of that came from, the show business and the righteous gemstone-ification of America that was displayed in that funeral service. Nonetheless, this is a faith I understand a lot better because I grew up Mormon. So when I watch these videos and I see a Mormon church burning like this, it hurts me. Not to say that the death of Charlie Kirk, I said in the beginning of this, wasn't emotional as well. It was horrible. But like, I know these people, I know this faith, and to see them punished for something they had nothing to do with, and burned and shot. I mean, like, let me just tell you what a church's Sunday service is like for the Mormon church. First of all, there are no paid clergy. It's all volunteer. So you have people that are just regular folks that work in your community, giving speeches about Jesus Christ, little lessons, a lot of old people. It's a lot of just old-fashioned communion, meaning getting together to talk and to gossip and catch up. And these are nice people. I mean, whatever you say about Mormonism, they're nice. I grew up in the faith. And the South Park folks in the Book of Mormon musical and in their cartoon, they lampoon Mormons a lot, but they consistently also identify the Mormons as very, very nice. And you may have a different experience, but in my experience, Mormonism is full of the nicest people in the world. They will do anything for you. Again, there are problems with the faith. There's a reason why I'm not a practicing Mormon. I do miss the network and the community that the church provides, no doubt, because it is so nice. So to see these people, who I'm sure most of which were just the type of people I grew up with, burning because of the political anger that was stoked by J.D. Vance and stoked by the president, it hurts me as an American, as someone who is culturally Mormon, someone who cares about the Mormon faith and the members, someone who cares about this country. It is painful.
FBI now providing federal assistance, calling it an act of targeted violence. Police have now upped resources to religious institutions across the country. On social media, Donald Trump said it appeared to be yet another targeted attack on Christians in the United States of America, saying that the epidemic of violence in...
Yeah, but why was it targeted, sir? Why? Because let me make it clear. Some of you don't follow this very closely, but there are folks on the right who don't think Mormons are Christians. One of them is Huckabee, for example. He said repeatedly that Mormons are not Christians. He called us the faith of Satan, even, I think. Something to that effect. How he attacked Mitt Romney, saying that Mitt Romney believed that Christ and Satan were brothers. And I guess, in a sense, we're all spiritual brothers, and we believe in a war in heaven, or that's part of the doctrine of the faith. But that Christ, I mean, I think it's part of a doctrine of many faiths. If you read Paradise Lost, Satan was a fallen angel, right? So I don't know why he has an issue with that, but his terminology using the word brother emphasizes some sort of satanic or bewitched component to Mormonism, and they often do this, even though the name Jesus Christ is right in the title. And the reason is, I think, more than anything, is there's a fight for mainstream dominance of Christian religion, and they don't want a new competitor, and Mormonism is a fast-growing faith, and they don't like it. It cuts into their bottom line, these evangelical megachurches. They don't want Mormons going to a church where there's no paid clergy. So it is disturbing. But let me play this.
We have new information about the man who shot up the Mormon church in Michigan. He was a huge Donald Trump and a huge Charlie Kirk supporter, a huge supporter of Turning Point USA. Does that mean this is possibly retaliation for Tyler Robinson's assassination of Charlie Kirk? That did happen in Utah. Tyler Robinson's from a Mormon family. I believe he was not currently Mormon, but maybe this person heard Trump's calls for continued violence and decided to do something crazy. We don't really know.
I don't know who you are, random TikTok guy, but I think this is, if we're going to connect the dots saying that Tyler Robinson was somehow a leftist because he had a transgender romantic partner and therefore represented all people on the left, I think it's at least reasonable to say, hey, this guy was taking revenge on the Mormon church, which he rammed his MAGA truck into because he was motivated to get revenge for Charlie Kirk, who has now been denoted as their savior. Now, a lot of movements throughout history, I know Nancy Pelosi, I remember she called George Floyd a martyr. Not just called him a martyr, she used almost messianic terms for George Floyd, like his life represented justice. And I know, obviously, his life was taken by the state. He was killed by the state. It was a horrible thing that happened. But like, she used these messianic or almost religious terms to describe him. As we've done throughout history. I mean, certainly the word martyr has been applied to Martin Luther King and to others. I'm not sure it's always appropriate, but they've made Charlie Kirk a martyr for their cause, whether he deserves such title or not. And people are going to kill for their religious beliefs. I've often quoted Solzhenitsyn, the Russian or Soviet dissident, who consistently talked about the fact that if you have greed, you may kill a few people like Macbeth, but ideology will allow you to kill millions because everything is justified by the ideology. And I'm afraid Trump is creating that type of atmosphere where the ideology will justify all manner of atrocity.
Had a Trump flag on their front porch. They had American flags in their pickup truck. They believed in all these different conspiracy theories about masking and vaccines. He talked about liberal tears. His child is seen holding a dead animal. He loved guns since a young age. He is a very straight, white, conservative, typically MAGA man. He looks like a MAGA build. He has a MAGA body. He has camouflage on. Everything about him is coded to be traditional conservative. And that's why Donald Trump right now is not calling for civil war. Whenever a crime happens, they can even lie about to cause blame against the left. They call for the left and Democrats to...
It's really laughable. I'm not going to sit here and say, I never have, that there isn't left-wing violence. There is. But the magnitude and the scope by the right is so much more dramatic and pronounced and consistent. The C.J.D. Vance and all these guys, they're just using the death of Charlie Kirk as an excuse to roll back our civil liberties. Moving on.
J.K. Rowling.
Little bit of a change in direction here. Back to the thing I talked about in the last podcast, J.K. Rowling and Emma Watson. Okay, Emma Watson played Hermione. J.K. Rowling is, I don't know what's going on here. She's like a mafia boss or something. She's so vindictive. She hates Emma Watson so much. Emma Watson got on a show. She hasn't been in a movie in 7 years. Did you know that? I didn't know that. And Emma Watson, she was pro-trans, and I can't really understand J.K. Rowling's position. Something about by giving rights to trans women, you're eroding women's rights. And you're also putting women in danger. Fine, let's talk about it if that's what you think. But I think that Emma Watson and Daniel Radcliffe are just like, hey, I don't want to be mean to people that are a little different. But J.K. Rowling isn't having it. So Emma Watson goes in this show last week trying to get, dip her foot back into the entertainment waters. And she goes in this long word salad about how she loves J.K. Rowling. And it sounds better the way I'm putting it than the way she put it. She was basically trying to claw back some of her comments in support of LGBTQ plus rights. Always difficult to say that for me. I apologize. I've been practicing for years. It's a mouthful. But she was supportive of the cause, right? She's like, I don't want to be someone on the side of hurting others. And J.K. Rowling has been vindictive since then. And even though Emma tried to claw things back or try to, backtrack a bit in a way that I thought was not very courageous, kind of cowardly, J.K. Rowling is not having it. So here we go.
J.K. Rowling has launched a scathing attack on Emma Watson after her interview speaking about their rift over transgender rights. The Harry Potter author slammed Watson, who played Hermione in the movies, in a lengthy statement this morning, calling her ignorant. The author slammed, like other people who've never experienced adult life uncushioned by wealth and fame, Emma has so little experience of real life. She's ignorant of how ignorant she is. Watson spoke to Jay Shetty on his podcast earlier in the week about their feud. She said, "The thing I'm most upset about is that a conversation was never made possible. I think it's my deepest wish that I hope people who don't agree with my opinion will love me, and I hope I can keep loving people who I don't necessarily share the same opinion with." Watson insisted she still treasures Rowling. But the Harry Potter author didn't seem to share this view, sharing a spoof clip of Watson during the podcast to X. Rowling previously said she couldn't forgive Watson or Daniel Radcliffe or other...
I don't understand this lady. She's so angry for someone who's so rich. Listen, who cares what Emma Watson thinks about trans rights? You don't have to, she doesn't have to agree with everything you say. What are you? It's like, this is the thing you should learn. Do not give in to bullies. They don't want to make peace, all right? You have to resist them. I know it doesn't seem like the right thing to do sometimes, and it's not easy, but giving in to them, the farther you run to the middle, the farther they're going to go to the right. You're going to keep moving over. If you feel strong in your feelings and your beliefs, don't backtrack.
Or Daniel Radcliffe or other celebrities who cozied up to a movement intent on eroding women's hard-won rights.
All right.
Robert Caro had a great...
I'm going to go here to this guy, Scaramouche, famously fired by Trump after, 10 or 11 days or whatever. He was kind of made a fool out of, and now he's rebranded himself because he's quite clever. I think he's a smart guy, actually. I don't agree with a large portion of what he says, but he's a great communicator. He's obviously like a hedge fund guy. So he's constantly pushing that, center-right narrative. But he was also incredibly sycophantic towards Trump, and it is hard to forgive. If you go back and watch the video of what Scaramucci said about Trump, it's hilarious. He said, I think he said, Trump can make free throw after free throw, and he's an incredible athlete. It was like North Korea, Kim Jong-un stuff. But I still like him because he's likable. Scaramucci is likable. So here he's arguing that they should make a bigger tent, and I'll have my comments after his comments. The Democrats should have a bigger tent.
Robert Caro had a great line that was uttered by Lyndon Johnson. I want all the elephants inside the tent pissing outside the tent. I don't want elephants outside the tent pissing into the tent. And Johnson would have never allowed that. So that's number one. Number two, when people are looking to help you, you open the tent and you bring them in, even if you don't like them. Okay, Winston Churchill brought in Joe Stalin, hated his guts, needed to beat Adolf Hitler, flew back and forth to Moscow to curry favor with Joe Stalin.
I think there's some truth here, but you don't hand over the keys to you, Scaramouche, and say, hey, guess what? You were the Trump guy. Now you can run our party. I think having you involved in the opposition and everybody else that wants to oppose Trump is important. But again, they don't want to bring in Bernie Sanders. Why are they going to bring you in? They don't want to bring anybody in. I think first, before we bring Scaramouche in, we should bring in Bernie Sanders. Okay, they don't want to let AOC in, but we're going to let Scaramouche in? I know you're Scaramucci, I get it, but
that wanted to defeat Trump, myself included. We were not allowed to be part of the process. Why? Well, I once worked for Trump, so
And you
the
were
hard
sycophantic
left of the
towards him.
Democratic Party, I'm canceled. I helped the vice president on her debate.
You're not canceled, but it was difficult for us to watch the vice president spending more time with Liz Cheney than with Bernie Sanders. Okay? That was the problem. The problem is not a bigger tent. The problem is they're letting you guys into the tent, but not the people that we've been with and, ride or die with for a long time, like Bernie and AOC.
I helped the vice president on her debate prep, but I was told by her staff, we're not going to fly around on the plane because there's hard left people on the plane that hate your guts. Did they hate my guts? Yeah. Well, they don't even know me. Well, no, they hate your guts. You once worked for...
The party seems more willing to talk to you and talk to Eric Adams, who's like, all these allegations like bribery from Turkey, bribery from China, rigging election laws. They're willing. I put a post up yesterday on Facebook and I said, look at all the crimes of Eric Adams. No one likes it. Zero. And most of my following is very left wing. They don't want to attack their own, but they're more willing to take broken middle of the road Democrats and right wing guys like you, or former right wing guys like you, than they are the left wing. It's a weird situation. There is no tent because they've made the tent so small, and they're again more willing to put you in there, Anthony, than to put me in there.
Or canceled. So if you've got 10, 15% of that party that wants to cancel the 80 million people that voted for Donald Trump, you are a lost party. Okay,
Anthony, but you want to cancel Bernie. I've heard you. You think those guys are toxic. So don't try to come in our tent and take it over. Make your own tent. Or come in our tent and welcome everybody else in too. Anyway.
Yeah, this is not...
Now, this is back to the Bills. Now, I know I'm wearing a Bills shirt, not coincidentally, because I love the Bills, okay? I mean, everybody that lives in Western New York loves the Bills. But I don't love this. I don't like the fact that someone's going to get paralyzed doing this. And then maybe I'm a old man or, like your dad or mommy or something that doesn't want you to be hurt. But I don't know why this is celebrated. I don't get it.
Yeah, this is not good.
Put him more under him.
I know, listen, I was never in a frat. I didn't enjoy frat humor when I was in college or even when I was in high school. I never was part of this scene. This isn't for me, man. I was more intellectual than this. God forbid that I say that. I don't get it. I don't get it. When I see this, I worry about this young man. I'm like, you're too precious as a human being to do this stunt for a bunch of idiots in a parking lot. It's not heroic. It's silly.
Yeah, this is not good.
Put him more under him.
It's like the worst parts of backyard wrestling. It's like, look at me, I'm a fool. I'll do this. It's horrible. Anyway, I wish more people in power would speak out against this before something really horrible happens. Listen, there's a lot of things about Buffalo Bills culture I don't like, but I can accept. I can accept the Killers song, Mr. Brightside, even though it's been used by a million other sporting teams, and it's not original. And the lack of originality irks me, but I can accept it, okay? I can get over it. I can't get over this kid almost falling on his neck and killing himself. It bothers me, all right? And sorry, it does, so. All right. A couple more here. So, this is a beautiful tape. Margaret Atwood, the author of The Handmaid's Tale, talking about how we might lose our democracy a long time ago. This is an old clip, but I love it.
The Handmaid's Tale is the answer to the question, if you were going to change the United States from a democracy into a totalitarianism, how would you go about doing it? Well, you wouldn't say, let's all be communists. You wouldn't get any takers for that. You might say a rather twisted sort of thing that would say, in order to preserve our freedoms, we have to give them up for now. You might say something like that, which is kind of, I think, what's been floating in the breeze this last little while. In order to preserve freedom, we have to demolish freedom. Something like that.
Why'd they send the army?
I don't think that's the army.
But you're more likely to say, this is the true religion, follow our flag, that kind of thing.
He was taken from us by those who despise the virtues that actually made our civilization great to begin with.
If you disagree with it, you're not just of another faction, you're evil.
But you don't imagine that could happen here?
Want to bet? The Handmaid's Tale.
I've talked about her before. Margaret Atwood. Her ancestor was hanged in the Salem witch trials, and that's why she was inspired to write. She thinks that the great threat to America is religious tyranny, and I would agree with her. It's not going to look like it does in China when tyranny comes here. It's not going to be communist, like she said. It's going to look like something we're familiar with, and the use of these religious motifs and religious sentimentality and religious storytelling to convince us to give up our rights or to villainize others is terrifying. J.D. Vance is someone who's reinvented himself several times. He's a Catholic. Maybe he's going to become evangelical soon. I don't know. He's like a late life convert to Catholicism. Like he's always talking about Western civilization. I don't think he knows what Western civilization is. Western civilization is about rational thought. Okay, let me give you a little sample of Western civilization. There was a guy called Plato. Have you heard of him, JD? Plato said we should give up the old gods, and he created philosophy. Now, you may argue that he also replaced one form of religion, if that's the word you want to use, for another one, because he said that there is this real world, and there's actually a more real world behind that, the metaphysical or spiritual or supernatural perfect world behind it was his theory. But he was someone who rallied against conformity and against conservative principle when it comes to religious or spiritual thought. He was somebody who opened the world to logic. And then came Aristotle, who took it a step further and classified the physical world and rejected some of Plato's thoughts about the spiritual or other supernatural world. And of course, before both of them was Socrates, who chose death rather than conformity. So that is the start of the Western world. And then we moved into the Dark Ages, and and finally we had the Renaissance and the rejection of spiritual principle for rational thought and the scientific method. That is Western civilization. I don't know what you think Western civilization is. Picking a piece here, picking a piece there out of, the Dark Ages and say that's Western civilization. That's not what Western civilization is. Anyway, speaking of civilization, we're falling behind Eastern civilization. Here's China. The biggest bridge in the world is opening in China. I'm showing some, for those listening, I'm showing some video of it. It is so impressive. It is, I can't believe it's even real. It is a wake-up call, another wake-up call, guys. We are falling behind in infrastructure. We are falling behind in technology because we are falling into what they called the demon-haunted world, what Carl Sagan called the demon-haunted world. All right, this is Jake Tapper talking about some more of this demon-haunted world we're in. It is Trump. Now, there's a conspiracy out there that there's these med beds, like in the movie Elysium. Did you see that movie? It's a pretty good movie. Where you can sit in these med beds and they heal you automatically, right? You automatically have all your ages being reversed. You become well. Now, some people actually have set up clinics where they have fake versions of these, believe it or not, in some crappy old hotels. I listened to a BBC thing where these people went and looked at these so-called medbed clinics that were going to make you revitalize. It's a complete scam. There's no such thing. And the reason why people want this, obviously, is because there's no health care in this country. So these conspiracies have formed that we need this magical super health care the elites have. The elites just have normal health care, which is like, getting your colonoscopy regular and getting your blood checked. Things that most Americans don't have access to, or if they do have access to, have to pay so much for. Anyway, here it is. All right. A clip where Trump is now promoting AI imagery, saying he's going to offer these conspiracy theory med beds to everybody.
I know we've gotten all kind of numb to the odd and misinforming and strange stuff that politicians these days post on social media, including our president. But last night at 10:19 p.m. Eastern, President Trump posted this.
Breaking now. President Donald J. Trump has announced a historic new healthcare system, the launch of America's first medbed hospitals and a national medbed card for every citizen.
Every American will soon receive their own medbed card. With it, you'll have guaranteed access to our new hospitals led by the top doctors in the nation.
I'm interrupting just a second. Apologies, to make sure you understand that none of this report is real. It is AI doing a fake Lara Trump Fox report. None of this is real. Medbeds are not real. I'll tell you more about them in a second, but I just wanted to make sure you got that. Anyway, here's the rest of this bogus news report that President Trump shared for some reason.
Equipped with the most advanced technology in the world, these facilities are safe, modern, and designed to restore every citizen to full health and strength.
Again, this is not a real video, and now this is President Trump retruthing, if that's what you call it on Truth Social, his social media thing, retruthing a post that is AI of his daughter-in-law, AI.
It's crazy. He wants to give people false hope because, I mean, how about just giving everybody universal health care, you jerk? Seriously. How about everyone has health care as a human right? Before you start posting fake med beds, just do what everyone's asking. What are we waiting for on that, by the way, Democratic Party? Why don't you make that a major part of your platform? Still, they have this accessible health care, affordable and accessible. How about health care as a human right? If our country's going bankrupt, right? If it's going to go bankrupt for anything, why don't we go bankrupt to help people? It's nuts. All right. Lots more going on. Trump saying he's going to solve the crisis in Gaza. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I hope he does, but it does, so far no good. Yeah, it's a crazy world. All right, hang in there. I should talk more about what you can do to fight back, because there are things you can do to fight back. Again, not physically fight back, but fight back. I think that this is you got to be hopeful. You never know when things are going to change. And first and foremost, don't give up your voice. Your ancestors came here probably to escape tyranny in most cases, or they fought for freedom when they got here. Don't give up your voice. The biggest thing you can do is keep talking, all right? Hey, you.